Another nail in my coffin! Ciao a tutti, sono il vostro amichevole Zio Pete de Quartiere. Hey everybody, it's friendly neighborhood Uncle Pete here, and this is my series, Nails in a Coffin, where we learned that with great kills, there must also come great nails. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel. If you're new here, you can read what Nails in a Coffin is all about in the section down below, because these videos really aren't film reviews, rather a breakdown of the kills in the movie, and I evaluate how well the victim actually responds to their attack. I am continuing my foray into covering some giallo films. So far I've covered A Blade in the Dark, Deep Red, A Bay of Blood, The Bird with the Crystal Plumage, and Stage Fright. Here's a look at all those films' average Nails in a Coffin, and I'll have some cards up here for you to check out those videos. I have a playlist. So this week I'm covering another legend in the horror genre. He's directed Zombie, The Beyond, House by the Cemetery, City of the Living Dead, and today's film, Don't Torture a Duckling. My first Lucio Fulci film covering on Nails in a Coffin. And I would promise you this will not be my last Fulci film I am going to cover. If you are familiar with this movie, the story surrounds a small Italian village where a series of child murders take place, and a local journalist and a city reporter investigate these crimes, and they uncover dark secrets, superstitions that are within the community. And this film kind of explores themes of superstition, religious hypocrisy for sure, and small town prejudices. The film begins with the stunning view of this tranquil countryside, and it features a captivating shot of a lengthy, winding bridge. So the scene transitions to a woman feverishly digging in the soil with her hands on top of this cliff, and she unearths the skeletal remains of an infant. She picked the remains up and takes them with her, and this is a bold and very evocative opening, and it does a real good job at establishing a tone for the entirety of the movie. Our first on-screen death occurs about 15 minutes into the film. We see Bruno, a young kid running through this heavily wooded area. He's being chased by someone, and he looks terrified. He gets out of this dense area, he looks up a small hill, and he sees his house right in front of him. He trips, falls to the ground, gets back up right away, but his pursuer catches up to him. The young kid looks at this person and says, "No!" and then he's hit across the head and falls to the ground. I haven't rated too many children's deaths in my Nails in a Coffin series, but I guess I'm going to award Bruno 2 Nails in a Coffin. He was just a kid. He was running and he was scared. I didn't expect that much else for him. You know, the killer was bigger, faster, and stronger. Since Bruno was just a kid, I can't take a punch away from him stopping and staring at the killer, especially when you know who the killer is by the end of the movie. And he did more than a lot of other victims in these types of movies do. So he did what he could, and for that, I feel he deserves 2 Nails in a Coffin. There's another death right about 29 minutes into the movie. In the early hours of the morning, an old woman is about to go clean some laundry. When she arrives at the wash area, she finds the drowned body of another young child, Tonino, and it's a pretty disturbing image, but I can't rate this death since it was off screen. Young boy Michele receives a phone call from the very attractive Patrizia. She was renting a room in his home earlier in the film, and I guess she asks him to meet her somewhere. It's pouring down rain, and Michele sneaks out for this rendezvous. He's walking through the heavily wooded area, and looks like the same area around where Bruno was killed. So there's an old man behind him hacking away with some brush with a machete. But Michele was able to avoid any confrontation with this man. Once Michele reaches his destination, he straightens himself up a little bit for his rendezvous. He sees someone right in front of him, and he smiles, thinking it's Patricia. Well, once he sees it's not her, there's a look of concern on him, and then the mystery individual grabs the child around the neck and strangles him to death. Another young child's death to rate, and just like his friend Bruno, I'm going to give Michele 2 Nails in the Coffin. This kid did nothing wrong. He snuck out of the house to go meet a beautiful woman for something. He was naive, sure, but he was 11. I don't blame this kid for 1 second for his decision. He thought he was meeting Patrizia, but as soon as he saw that it was not her, the person grabbed him and started strangling him. He was overpowered by an adult, and there wasn't much he could have done here. I didn't see him do anything foolish, so I'm going to give him 2 Nails in the Coffin. La Machada, also known as the Italian Witch Lady, is our next victim. She was a suspect to the murders of these young boys. When she was in custody, she did confess to killing them, but what she actually confessed to was putting a spell or a curse on them, since they were harassing her and playing around the area where she had buried her dead child. The police have no reason to hold her in custody, so they let her go. She returns to the cliffside where her child was buried. Unfortunately for her, people are waiting for her. 2 of the people are the fathers of the 2 dead boys, Mr. Sperano and Mr. Cassio. They all think she's the murderer, and they want their pound of flesh. So she's surrounded by 4 men with nowhere to run. They start to beat her with chains, removing flesh with each hit. This brutal breeding goes on for a little while, and there's really nothing she can do, and after multiple hits, she collapses, and the men leave. As the men are leaving, she sits up with blurry vision, trying to regain herself. She gets back to her feet, but she's stumbling all over the place. She can barely stand up without continuously falling down. Eventually, she makes her way back up to the cliffside, and I feel like she wanted to go where her child was buried because she knew she was dying. But she's alongside the road where cars are passing by, but they just ignore her, and then she succumbs to her wounds and dies. Marcella earned herself 1.5 nails in her coffin. She was surrounded by 4 men with chains, and there wasn't much really she could have done. If she ran, they would have, stopped her right away, and she had nothing to defend herself with. But she took these hits of the chains, and she never really covered up or tried to run away. She didn't try anything. She did take the hits like a champ, even though she should have covered up, tried to run, try and do something. And she only avoids getting the 1 nail in the coffin because she was outnumbered 4-1. So I'm going to give her that extra half a nail, but I really expected a lot more from her. Mario, a young adventurous boy, is eager to explore the rumored haunted house in town, said to attract particular women seeking the company of men. Ignoring his friends' pleas not to go, Mario goes by himself, and on his way to the place, he meets Patrizia, who has a flat tire on her buggy. He says he'll change it for her, and the seductress asks him if he prefers a kiss or money. Then we switch to a shot of him dead with his face in the river. He was killed off screen, so I'm unable to give Mario a nail rating. The lovely Patrizia, who's a former reporter, and her companion Andrea, a journalist, he's checking into these murders, and they're talking about these murders, trying to figure out who the mystery killer could be. Their investigation finally leads them to their Father Alberto. Father Alberto runs the boys' group at the church. His mother, Aurelia, she has another child, a 6-year-old deaf-mute girl named Alvina. Andrea believes that the young child may have seen these murders, but Alvina's mother says it's not possible since the murders took place at night, and it wasn't possible for a daughter to see them since the doors are locked at night. So later on in the day, when Andrea and Patrizia are discussing everything, they get a phone call from Father Alberto saying that his mother had disappeared with the child. Andrea and Patrizia go looking for Alvina and her mother, thinking Aurelia is the killer. Well, Aurelia and her daughter are resting in the shack on top of the hillside, where Father Alberto shows up and enters the shack with his mother and sister. They look at each other, and the scene cuts away. It looks like Aurelia is about to kill her daughter. Patrizia and Andrea get to the top of the hill in hopes of stopping anybody from hurting Alvina. Meanwhile, Father Alberto engages in a heated altercation with his mother, forcefully wrenching Alvina from her grasp, and then callously pushing his mother to the ground. Upon reaching the summit of the hill, Patrizia and Andrea witness Aurelia collapsing to the ground and imploring Father Alberto to return. As Andrea approaches Aurelia, she pleads with him to intervene, preventing Alberto, expressing her concern that he intends to actually harm the girl. Father Alberto is now at the peak of the cliffside, holding his sister in his arms. A voiceover, we hear him say that he killed those young boys to save them from sinning as adults. Alvina kisses her brother on the cheek, and he holds her to put her out over the cliff, ready to drop her. But Andrea calls out, "Don Alberto," which stops the father from dropping his young sister. Andrea gets to the top of the cliff, and he tries to grab Alvina from her brother's arms. They go back and forth, beating the crap out of each other. Andrea gets the father down for a moment, and when he goes to pick up Alvina, she bites his hand. She doesn't know that her brother was about to kill her. This actually gives the father time to smash Andrea over the head with the rock. When the brother and sister are walking away, Patrizia jumps in to stop them, but her efforts fail. Andrea gets back up and continues to fight with the father, and they're fighting back and forth, and Andrea gets knocked over the cliff, and he's now hanging on by the egg. Kicking out his hands with one final stop, the father tries to end this, but Andrea catches the father's foot, which causes this killer to fall to his death in a very gruesome manner, hitting his face all the way down the cliffside again and again till he finally falls to the bottom of the hill in a dead heap. Father Alberto is awarded 1 nail in the coffin. He had Andrea right where he wanted him, over the edge of a cliff, hanging on by his fingers. But the father had to lift his foot up on this high stomp to try and kill him, and you just made your foot easy to get caught. He should have kicked out straight so he would at least have his balance. It was a dumb move on his part, and I think like a lot of villain deaths in horror movies, I feel it was the father's ego that led to his ultimate downfall, since he wanted to do this big stomp kick, kind of like gloating instead of just trying to, kill the person that he was trying to kill. And because of all those reasons, I'm going to give this father only 1 nail in the coffin. There we go, ladies and gentlemen. Those are all my nails in the coffin for Lucio Fulci's Don't Torture a Duckling. Here's a summary of all the nails I've awarded. The average nails in a coffin is 1.63 nails. Now, there are only 4 on-screen deaths here, and 2 kids, 2 adults, And I kind of found amusing that both of the young boys outscored each adult in this film. Here's the average Nails in a Coffin for all the giallo movies I've covered so far. And it looks like A Bay of Blood still leading the pack with 1.92 Nails in a Coffin. And with the lowest right now, we have Stage Fright with 1.25 nails. Don't Torture a Duckling coming right in the middle. I like this movie a lot. I thought Patrizia was simply stunning. I fell in love with her character in this film. There's just so much to her, and the more you learn about her backstory, just the more I just kind of fall for her. Because she made you want to know more about her. It was odd in ways. She was kind of hypnotic in this movie, but also loved the music in this film was simply outstanding. Beautiful music, beautiful setting. Yeah, very, very well done movie by Lucio Fulci. Thanks for watching. Please like, comment, share, subscribe, all that normal stuff earlier. Do appreciate it. And I'll see you here next week when I'm continuing to nail some more giallo films. Until then, take care, stay safe, be good to each other. I am your friendly neighborhood Uncle Pete. Remember, with great kills, there must also come great now.